Hello students, this lecture should be considered in continuation of the earlier topic, that is romanticism. We have discussed that the German romanticism and French romanticism, the views and philosophy propounded by the theorists and the writers of the romanticism have greatly contributed to the English romanticism. And in this regard, we have seen Rousseau has cast a tremendous influence on the English romanticism, and that we have seen that Rousseau was very much dear to the English romanticism. English romanticism was started around the mid 18th century and it reached at its peak in the beginning of the 19th century. Like European counterparts, English romanticism supported the French Revolution and believed on the literary works. So they strongly opposed the neoclassical rules and they the restrictions were disdained by the English romanticism. We have seen the faithful imitation of the characters, objects, and reason and human nature were the features of English romanticism. But we, we have the opposed views and the critical and creative roles. They are held rejected. So the neoclassical rules were regarded as unworthy and rejected by William Wordsworth and fellow romanticist. He prefaced, William Wordsworth wrote his philosophy in the preface to lyrical ballads which published in 18th century. Romantic concept of poetry was clear and effective. Apart from Wordsworth's preface, Keats' letters were also excellent record of Keats's romanticism. John Keats did not write in an independent treatise, but his letters on poetry were very effective and very much convincing to express his views on romanticism. He was a poet, a critic of a great range and perception. His brilliant views on the concepts like imagination, reason, and understanding of symbolism, allegory, and culture were certainly new path breaking. They paved the way, these ideas paved the way for the fellow romanticist to follow. Coleridge, in his Biographia Literaria, made a clear cut distinction between fancy and imagination. Apart from Coleridge, Shelley showed the critical bent of mind. He offered the powerful defense of poetry and made the charges clear by Thomas Love Peacock. He expressed the central ideas and concepts with regard to this. Robert Burns, Oliver Goldsmith, before him were the English Romanticists. The English Romanticist William Blake, the first important figure that different writers and his contemporaries who succeeded him. Blake was visionary, the poet of gift of imagination. As a citizen of England, his poetry was prophetic, mythological, and visionary. Therefore, it's difficult to understand. His poems were characterized by the blend of political fervor and visionary ecstasy. His poetry portrays the suffering and painful realities of his time. So he offers both the position of vision in the two poetic collections that we see, Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience. William Wordsworth, along with his friend S.T. Coleridge, wrote the preface to lyrical ballads. As a supporter of French Revolution, William Wordsworth celebrated the promise of revolution. At the same time, he celebrated the generation. At the same time, politics and idealism. The collaboration with Coleridge that resulted in the lyrical ballads. So it's a romantic poetry that he wrote. He regarded poetry as a springing of from emotions recollected in tranquility. S.T. Coleridge is the next English poet and critic, the most influential English romanticist. Like his friend Wordsworth, he was too influenced by the French Revolution. He turned to German intellectuals like Kant and Schlegel. His views on dramatic art belongs to Shakespeare that influenced Schlegel in formulation of poetic imagination and sharing. A poem, in Coleridge's view, is metrical composition. The poet is born, not made. He has the magical power of imagination, which helps him to create visions in his poetry. Coleridge's own poetry possesses the dream-like quality where borders were blurred between dreams and reality. He made a seminal contribution in at least two respects. He proposed a celebrated concept of fancy and imagination. He convincingly argued that fancy is different from imagination because it is more common. Imagination is a rare gift that reconciles opposite and gives delight to the writer. Lord Byron is one of the English romantic poet. He was a stylish and very exciting. He was notorious for his lifestyle and yet greatly exerted an influence on English romantic poetry. Byron, in the early stage of his writing career, imitated the favorite themes of earlier romantic poets, like the descriptions of landscape, attributing human feelings to nature. He developed his own distinctive vision of romanticism, it best exemplified in the creation of the Byronic hero. The Byronic hero is a lonely, happy person, proud but unhappy, stays away from family and society. He propounds the freedom of regimentation and systemic operation. P.B. Shelley, along with his fellow romantic Byron poet, presented his radical version of romanticism in both theory and practice. He was widely read and was a knowledgeable person in classics and contemporary science and philosophy. Like other romanticists, he strongly believed on art, individuality, and compassion for the friends. He hoped for the better world, and there was no oppression of sharing. So, like this, we do have these features that we see. So, we have this John Keats, the English romantic poet. Lord Byron was also influenced by the major themes employed by the German romanticist. So